Welcome back. Now, if you didn't take the time to watch the first video and download the first audio clip and the article, what I want you to do, and I'm being benevolent here, what I want you to do is to go back, watch that, and then come and watch this, because the two of them work together. All right, is everybody back? We're tracking. I am still Paul Markle, and I am still a dad, and we are going to talk about kids and problems that you encounter raising kids, dealing with the world that we live in. Now, the last problem we talked about was people that will try and convince you that you can sterilize the world. If we just do enough, we can sterilize the world, and then our children will never have to encounter any threats or dangers or so forth. Well, that's not reality. And we talked about that before, but let's talk about it right now. You say, all right, Paul, I acknowledge that evil does exist and that there are threats in the world, but acknowledging that, just acknowledging it doesn't help. Well, it does to a certain extent. When you talk to your kids, do you teach them to be afraid of cars? Those are cars and they're bad and they're dangerous and you should never go near a car. Or do you teach your kids, before you run out into the street, stop and look both ways? I mean, I was taught that when I was 4 or 5 or 3 or whatever, look both ways before crossing the streets. That is mitigating the threat of being run over by a car. Now, I didn't grow up with a weird paranoia about cars because my parents taught me to look both ways. When did you teach your kids not to put their hand on the stove? That's hot, it will burn you. Well, yeah. Did your kids grow up afraid of fire and stoves? No. So whatever it is that you think may be a problem, and sadly, we live in the real world where kids can be assaulted and so forth. How do we help our kids deal with that? Well, number one, when you teach them the don't put your hand on the stove, don't stick the fork in the wall socket, Jared, don't run out in traffic and so forth, when you teach them that, you're addressing the threat, you're addressing the danger, but you're not creating some weird paranoia about it. You're just addressing it and you're giving them a solution. How many of you ever thought about that? When your mom and dad said, look both ways before crossing the street, they gave you a solution or a way to not get run over by a car. Amazing. They taught you how to apply solutions to your life. And that's what we want to do for our kids. We want to teach our kids to think, to problem solve. And sadly, there are people in this world that don't want to teach problem solving. They just want to shield children from everything. If we can create enough barriers, erect enough barriers or enough shields, we can protect our kids from every possible danger in the world. But when you shield your children, you're not teaching them anything. They're not going to be kids forever. I mean, how long do kids stay kids? Not very long. They grow up and we want them to be productive members of society. But what happens to the kid who's been shielded his whole life, who's had all his potential problems or problems solved for him, who's been, wrapped in bubble wrap and bicycle helmets? Then that person grows up and they're 18, 19, 20, 25 years old. They have no ability to deal with real problems or to address threats because their whole life, all those threats and potential problems, they were either shielded from them, pretended like they didn't exist, or someone else solved their problems for them. Make your kids do math. Math teaches the brain to problem solve. I know, we've known this for thousands of years, but here in the great enlightened enlightened era, thank you very much, we seem to have forgotten about that. Now, there are certain problems that kids can't solve on their own and you're going to have to help them with, but don't solve all their problems for them. Make them think. Give them the skills. Now, when it comes to physical abilities, you say, yeah, but my kids, they need to have the physical abilities. Okay, get them involved in a realistic or some type of a martial arts program. Get them involved in grappling. Get them involved in team sports. But make sure the team sports keep score. But it's just fun for them to run around the field and kick the ball, and we don't keep score, and they get fresh air. Bull crap. If you teach a kid that there's no score in the world, there's no grades in the world, how are they ever going to deal with it when they become adults? Yeah, I guess it's true, Paul. So educate your children, help your children, participate. You know, we talked in the previous video. My parents didn't really want me to be a Marine. They wanted me to go to college and get an education and have a good career in that direction, but I went a different direction. I became a United States Marine, a barbarian of sorts. But they helped me do it and they encouraged me. And I used that to build who I am today. And even though they didn't want that for me, it was something that I was able to participate in that helped me grow. So you might have been a world-class athlete or a football player. Your kid might not want to do that. Find out what it is that they want to do and participate and work with them. And let's face it, team sports, grappling, football, whatever, where you keep score and you have to be responsible for either achieving or failing, because sometimes it's good to fail. Oh, no, our kids should never be allowed to fail. No, the kids need to lose sometimes so they learn how to deal with that. I know, mind-boggling, isn't it? Some of you know. All right, the last thing we want to talk about is how many of you feel like, especially if you're young parents, or maybe you're grandparents and you're watching your kids raise their kids, that you're a spectator in your child's life, that's your role. You're not a participant, you're a spectator. Because everybody else knows how to raise your kids. Everyone but you knows how to raise your kids. So you're put into this like backseat spectator. You know, you're responsible for driving around and feeding them, and everybody else will take care of them. Well, what do I mean? Well, did you hear the story about the kid going to school and the school confiscating their homemade lunch and throwing it in the garbage and making them eat the school lunch because it didn't meet the school's standards? What? That happened? Oh yeah, more than once, but it happened. Doctors today, there are some pediatricians that are attempting to interview children by themselves and I'm not talking about 13, 15, 16-year-olds. I'm talking about little kids. I need to talk to your child alone. Oh, no, I don't think so. Does mommy and daddy have a gun in the house? We're here for immunizations and checkups. You don't need to grill my kid about whether or not they have guns in the house. My daughter was very little. She came home probably from first or second grade. I don't remember what grade it was. And my wife and I were in the kitchen. And she said, Mommy, do we have alcohol in our house? And we probably had like a half a bottle of wine and a beer in the fridge or something like that. We're not real big drinkers, but you know, we're not Baptists either. So we're like, well, yeah. Why do you ask, Paxton? Well, my teacher said that if your mommy and daddy keep alcohol in the house, that they're probably alcoholics. Yeah, there you go. Just recently, there was a story out of New Jersey where homeschoolers are being targeted for inspections and investigation by state social workers. The social workers going to people's houses. There was one specific incident where the social worker went to the house and interrogated the parents and children and demanded that the parents turn over to her, I believe it was a her, the child's medical records, and wanted to know whether they owned guns, and asked the child whether his parents ever fought or argued. Did my parents ever fight or argue? They're not clones or Stepford people. Yeah, they do. I don't know where they were going with that. I guess if your parents argue, they're bad parents and you need to be raised by the state. So if you're getting that, you're getting that feeling like, you know, I'm a spectator in my child's life, that everybody else knows better how to raise my kids than me, the state, the doctors, you know, the schools, the whatever. We're going to talk about that during the last video. Scroll down, hit the like button, and leave a comment if you want, telling us how you are preparing your kids for the real world. Now, before I let you go, I need to remind you, A, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that you downloaded and listened to and read the free content that we gave you in the first video and again in this video. And next time, we're going to talk about how you can move from the position of a spectator in your child's life into a direct participant. Thank you very much for being with me.